Hey Fremont, it's Heather Hansen, again with another daily devotional. Today we are starting a new book, the book of Philippians, one of my favorites, probably a lot of your favorites too. It's a book that is marked by a lot of joy and affirmation and encouragement from Paul to the church and its members in Philippi. It was written while he was in prison, and we see a lot of those themes in this first chapter. But one of the things I wanted to highlight in Philippians 1 is the use of the word gospel. Even just the amount of times it's used in the first chapter, and also you'll see in a few verses, it's the idea of the gospel is inferred. But usually that's something to pay attention to. If there is this repeated use of a word in a chapter or a passage that you're studying in the Bible, it's probably for a reason. So I kind of wanted to focus on the word gospel. Even the second section in this chapter is about the gospel and how it's being preached, how it's being spread, how why Paul's in prison, so that it would hopefully stop. They were hoping to stop the spread of the gospel. Anyway, rewind a little bit. We first see it in verse 5, where Paul is talking about his partnership in the gospel with the Philippians. Then verse 7, he says that they, and we as readers of this book, we are partakers with Paul of grace in defense and confirmation of the gospel. Verse 12, what has happened to Paul has served to advance the gospel. And this is where there was this note that I read about how it was actually meant to stop him, but now as he is in prison, it is still spreading. And in verses 14 and 15, it is inferred that this idea of the gospel spreading and him being in partnership. In verse 16, Paul is put in prison for the defense of the gospel. So meant to stop the spread of the gospel. But so some preach out of love. Paul also makes a distinction that some are preaching God's word out of rivalry. And he says, no matter, the motive doesn't matter. As long as Christ is being preached, then I am fine here in prison because the gospel is spreading. And again, he talks about that, and you can infer that in verses 17 and 18. Lastly, jump all the way down to verse 27. And I love this. It says, let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel, standing firm in one spirit and one mind, striving side by side for the gospel. And I know this chapter is usually marked by verse 21, which is, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. That is kind of one of the big Philippian verses that people are like, oh yeah, to live is Christ, to die is gain. But I kind of wanted to shift the focus on the gospel and just the prevalence of the word and the theme and the relevance that it has for us as believers, especially during this time. Again, verse 27, I'm going to read it again because it is so encouraging right now. And also a little bit of a call to action. Let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel, standing firm in one spirit and one mind, striving side by side for the gospel. Fremont, that is my hope and prayer for us. Are we living lives that are worthy of the gospel? And are we striving side by side, arm in arm, for the gospel and its advancement in our community and in our city and in our spheres of influence? That is what I wanted to impart to you today. I hope you found that encouraging and enlightening. The book of Philippians is so good and so rich in theology, and I'm excited that we get to embark on this. Have a great weekend. Oh, weekend for me. Whenever you're seeing this, have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Bye.